Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where and when you're listening to this. This is Coffee with Kevin. I am Kevin, and this is my coffee. I've got gratitude. I am very grateful this morning. That coffee is just so delish. So delicious this morning. It's wonderful. Today is decision day. I was going to try to get a banner, the American flag, whatever. It is November 8th, which is voting day here in the U.S. and all sorts of precincts all over the country. And I did my duty. I just came back. Funny thing is, I actually had to wait in line. I don't remember having to wait in too many lines, but I think my precinct, which there was only 3 precincts where I went, I think my precinct was the most popular or the most populated because we had the longest lines. Oh my goodness. Um, but it's a feel good feeling when you do something that people in a lot of countries can't do. You do something where a lot of people around the world can't do, which is actually have a voice. Actually have a voice. And yes, there's 350 million or something like that in this country, and I'm one. But one counts as long as a good percentage of the voters are going out and voting. That's what counts. That's an energy saying, okay, people care and they want to be part of something. That's an energy I think is really, really good. I'm not making it political at all. I'm just saying, hey, when you're part of something, when you actually can contribute, it really, really feels good. When you have a feeling that you've got a voice in the future, it feels good. It feels good. So making a decision, now going to that ballot box and making a decision, that was something else. That's when you got to make a decision. I want to talk about decisions today, but I also want to talk about last night. It was it was crowded this morning, and a lot of people standing in line and waiting in line, and there's conversations going on and everything else. It was kind of cool. Last night was very different, but maybe not so different. I was at Chuck E. Cheese's last night. Yes. hmm And I got there early. It was a school event, school fundraising event. So got there early before most of the kids did, and so my grandson got to run around and have fun, and it was pretty quiet, and there was only a few other kids there. And then as time progressed, all of a sudden, bam! There's kids running around and screaming and having fun everywhere, and it got crowded. It got crowded. So I was comparing. Geez, last night, would I rather be at Chuck E. Cheese or would I rather be standing in line to vote? Well, I think you probably can guess. I love places like Chuck E. Cheese, though. I really do. I'm a kid. So, yeah, I really did love being there, even though it was, tons of kids all over the place. And I actually had to stand in line. And it was as long of a line as I stood in today, which was not a short line. It actually was longer of a line than I stood in today. It was the line to redeem your tickets to get prizes for my grandson. So I stood in line with him, and that was a good half hour. It was a good half hour. Yeah, well, not only you have a line of kids, but each kid has to take their time to make that decision on what toys or what treats that they want for the points that they got. So I was involved in decisions last night. Right? If you got a big prize and you got enough points, that decision is fairly easy. You're right. You already know what you want, and you do have enough points for it. And bam, most of your points go. And if you have smaller points, a smaller amount of points, then there's tons and tons of these little prizes. And you got to say, okay, do I want this or that? Do I want this? And if I get this, I can't have that. It wasn't too different looking at the ballot today. I had to make that decision, those decisions. Do I want this or do I want that? Do I want him or her or them? We all make those decisions. Decisions are interesting. How do we make them? We can use logic. We can use logic. We've listened, if it's the election, we've listened to the candidates, we've listened to the debates, we've listened to the commercials. Oh my goodness, commercials. And we make a logical decision on everything we've heard and everything we believe. Then there's a feeling. You do listen to all that, but then you come down to the very end and you go with your gut. You go with your gut. I know for some of you that might sound really weird, but did you know? Did you know that for many years, the one woman who was making decisions as Walmart started to go all over the country, and they are in weird places. They're not in the bigger places where other retail stores are, and so they're kind of off to the wayside, or at least they were first. And so the person that was in charge of making the final decision, is it good? Is this place the decision where is this the place where we want to have a Walmart? She was interviewed and she said, yes, we looked at all the demographics. We looked at all the stats we needed to see, okay, is it plausible? Does it make sense to have a store here? Yeah, we looked at all the things about the local government and, are we going to be zoned and, parking and the whole thing. They did everything they're supposed to. She said, though, he said, once all that was looked at, then I went with my gut. If it just didn't feel right, even though it looked right, even though it sounded right, if it didn't feel right, I didn't go with it. If it felt right, even if it didn't have the greatest demographics, even if it, there seemed like there might be some small problems, if it felt right, I went with it. That's what she said. So sometimes, or very often, we should trust. We should look at all the facts, okay, and weigh them logically. That's when we're using the frontal lobe of our brain, and then weigh it with our feelings. Does this feel right? Does this feel good? Does this feel right? That's when you make the decision. You got to be able to trust yourself. You got to be able to trust your intuition, your gut. When you have good rapport with that, that's when things can happen. That's when things can happen. Then you make your decisions. Then you have fun finding out whether it was a good decision or not. So for the next couple of years, we'll find out whether we made good decisions or not. If the people we decided to help get in office, if they do get in office, we get to really validate, okay, was it a good decision? If the laws that we voted for or voted against got in or didn't get in, we get to really validate, hey, was this a good decision? But if we go with our gut, along with not just go with your gut. You got to know something about what you're doing. Does it make sense? Period. So it's not okay. I look at a name, and bam, it's no. You learn a little bit about them, or you learn as much as you can about them, and then make the decision. Then you make the decision. It's like when I'm buying coffee. I'll look at the various coffees. I'll look at the prices, and gosh, I look at the prices. But once in a while, there's a coffee, sounds good, and it really feels good inside. I say, yes, this is the coffee I want, and I go with that. even though it might be not be the coffee I usually buy, the coffee I would normally want to go after. And so I go with that. And most of the time I'm right. Once in a while I'm wrong, but most of the time I'm right. If it's something that's self-serving, something for you, that gut feeling is really important because it is all about you. If it's something for the community, the gut feeling is also important, but you're weighing it against, okay, is this really good for me and others? I like to call that ecological. Is it good for me and is it good for others around me? You should weigh all your decisions that way. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I wanted to talk about decisions because they're not easy. I mean, sometimes they're very hard. Sometimes the easiest thing for us to do is avoid them. And I could have avoided going on those lines today. I could have, but I didn't. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there. I wanted to weigh in my thoughts. And there was a lot on the ballot this year here in Massachusetts or here in my city. And yeah, I could have just avoided that all because, it takes some time. I've been studying the ballot questions and watching the candidates for the past couple of months. And yeah, I kind of knew what I wanted. And then I reviewed it again. I went for that feeling. I reviewed it again when I was in there. I took my time. I went for that feeling. And I think I'm happy with my votes. All right. This is Decision Making 22, and we should be grateful that we have the ability to make decisions. There's been a lot of talk as of late of this thing we call free will. And do we really have it? Do we really not have it? We have free will. We have the decision to, we have the ability to make a decision. We have the ability, and maybe we're constrained by certain things, but we still have the ability to make the decision. Do we make, go with the thing that's within the constraints, or do we go without? We still have that free will to make decisions, and we should be happy with that. It's a tough thing because it forces us to make decisions. I've seen some studies, and I've seen some, actually heard some anecdotal stories from people I know about their relatives and their relatives in the Eastern Bloc countries. Once they were freed, they didn't necessarily like the freedom because now they had to make decisions on their own. Sometimes it's comfortable with really tight boundaries and where you're not making decisions. Matter of fact, as we're growing up as children, children are often more comfortable with tight boundaries than they are with more freedom, because then they have to make decisions and they don't always make them right, and they know that. And they have a feeling that the tight boundaries, for the children at least, they have a feeling that they represent love or care or something like that for most of the children. But it's funny. It's funny the fact that to think that people would be someone that might not prefer free choice. And in a way, it's easier if someone else is making the choices for you. You don't have anything to think about, and you don't have to blame yourself. You can always blame everyone else. That brings me to the last thing. Sometimes it's easier not to have decision-making power if you can blame everyone else. And sometimes that's what we do. We blame everyone else for where we are and who we are, right? I am this way. I am, in this economic status because of the economy, because of my parents, because of the laws, because of this. You blame everything else, and that way you don't point to you. You don't want to point to you, because if you point to you, that means you're responsible. And the thing is, responsible is something we want to be. And it has to do with our responses. Doesn't have to do with blame. It has to do with how do we respond to these things that we can't control. Do we respond in kind and just accept and say, okay, I'm here. This happened to me, and there's nothing I can do about it. Because that latter thing, there's nothing I can do about it, is never a real thing. You can at least do things internally and within you. And when you change you, you often change around you. I think it was Mahatma Gandhi. He said, you want to change the world, you start by changing yourself. A lot of us think we can't change anything around us, and we don't bother changing ourselves. Change yourself, you change the world. And I am really grateful for that fact because I'm constantly working on myself. Wow. I'm going to end this with a lot of energy. I went for it with not much energy, but I'm going to end this with a lot of energy because I want you to know that you can change things around you. Take personal responsibility, make decisions, sometimes decisions you don't want to make, but make those decisions as best you can, looking with the gut's down here, the gut and the heart, and make those decisions and be responsible. All right. This has been Coffee with Kevin. I am Kevin Martin, a mindset coach with Peak Performance Mindset Coaching, soon to be Center for Next Level Performance. That's our new company. This is my coffee. I've had a great time with you this morning. Please comment. I'd appreciate knowing that people are appreciating these Coffee with Kevins. All right. Take care. Make it, because I know you can, make it a great day. Make it a great week for yourself. And as you do that, you're making it a great week for others around you. Take care, all. Bye.